Welcome to Technology Brothers, the most profitable podcast in the world. I am sick as a dog, but we're celebrating because we doubled and it's a Dom episode. You know what that means. We have a tradition around here.
Straight into it.
Every time we double, we pull out a bottle of Dom Perignon and enjoy it on the show live.
And the timing with this actually worked well, given that it's Christmas Eve.
It is. Merry Christmas,
everyone. Merry Christmas, everyone. We're having quite the morning. We got here. We woke up around 5, tried to get to the studio.
Jesus. So bad. Oh my God. I didn't realize I was so pumped up.
Oh, that's great.
That's fantastic.
Anyways, strong start to the episode.
Strong start. Jesus.
Yeah, that
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Anyway, so I'll just recap the morning briefly. So we got up around 5, wanted to get to the studio early because, of course, it's Christmas Eve and we have family stuff going on, family in town. But we weren't going to miss an opportunity to record a podcast. It just would not be on brand for us. So anyways, we get here. John is deathly ill from some disease that his cousin picked up at school.
It's like 1,000 times worse than COVID.
It's Not so kidding. If you've ever had COVID, COVID is 1,000 times worse than that. He keeps horrifically coughing. We just shot another video, and it was tough to get through it. And then we had a huge sort of printer malfunction, which was making this show difficult, considering we rely on quite a lot of printed content to get through it. But we made it here.
The worst part is that I got goaded into one of the hardest workouts of my life yesterday. So I heard a rumor that one of my buddies, who's a founder of Decacorn now, is like the fittest man in tech. And so I hit him up and I was like, I hear you're the fittest man in tech. Like, I'm going to challenge you. Like, let's go. Like, I want to work out. Where do you work out? I want to work out with you. See how jacked you really are. And he sent me his like
just
body fat
sent
scan.
Location.
Yeah, he did basically. He was like, meet here on the 23rd. He sent me his body fat percentage, 9.9%. Last time I tested, I was at 14.5. So I was
which is good.
Which is
healthy.
But 9.9 is low.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, no whammy. I've been working out. Maybe I'll be down 9.8. If I beat him by even 0.1, I win. So I get down there, get on the body fat scanner. Comes back 9.4. I'm like, let's go. I beat him. He gets
really? You
on,
came in at 9.4?
9.4, yeah. He gets on 9.1. He had dropped. Something had happened, and so he just smoked me. But I beat him on it gives you like this aggregate score for like muscle and fat, combines everything, complete like, nonsense heuristic.
Is this a DEXA?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it gives you like the score, and I beat him on that. So
there
I was like, this is what we were really focused on here.
Of course.
It's not the body fat percentage.
Of course.
And then he proceeded to destroy me. He's been training for a Murph, the Murph?
Yeah.
The mile, and then the 100 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats or something, and I just got destroyed.
Yeah.
It was so bad. But it was a lot of fun. And I was really close to bailing. I was like, I got this terrible cough. I can't make it, dude. And he was like, don't worry. There's a bunch of doctors you can go to that are nearby. And he sent me a screenshot just looking for gynecologists nearby. And I was like, fuck. And I literally got in my car and went,
Mogged.
I was like, I can't not go. And I was just coughing up a lung, dying the entire time, and it made me so.
You wouldn't have been invited back.
I came back with a 103-degree fever. It was so bad.
Amazing.
So bad. But I got through it, and that's what matters. So today we are recapping the big moments of 2024.
Hey, before that, one big moment of the year was for us.
We doubled again. Cheers.
Well, we doubled in this podcast. Very grateful for it and the brothers.
Mm-hmm. It's been fantastic.
It is an honor to record this.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel like it is a platform for the community for us to highlight, people doing great things, writing funny posts, and changing the world big and small.
Yeah.
So,
it's been a lot of fun evolving it from that first demo recording on Zoom that was just us like riffing about random stuff to a much more structured show.
Yep.
Being able to highlight funding rounds with the size gong and personnel news and people hire, job postings. We have a lot more planned for 2025. We're going 5 days a week, people.
Yeah, that's the big news.
Subscribe right now.
5 days.
We're going to be in your feed constantly.
Daily.
And,
It's a daily show starting in
And
January.
just a little bit of a reminder, we are 100% corporation supported. We never ask our listeners for a dime. We want to avoid audience capture. We ultimately don't care what the audience thinks. If the audience wants us to talk about some culture war thing or that'll go viral in the algorithm, that's not what matters. What matters is what do the corporations want us to talk about. And so this Christmas, if you're looking for a Christmas gift for us, ask your boss. Maybe we could sponsor. Hit us up.
Starting at 6 figures.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just 6 figures a month. You can support the Technology Brothers.
It's less than what an average product manager makes
exactly.
at a FANG company. So it's not much.
Put us in the team.
Awesome. Yeah. So for context, we just recorded a whole bit on our annual awards, which will be going out via X. So you can look out for that. But in going through that process, we spent the time to just kind of reflect on some of the bigger moments of the year, and it felt like a monumental year in tech for many reasons. I think the election played into that because, tech was just so intertwined with the election this year, given the influence of X and Elon and big venture funds. And it was really more, the election specifically was more of a cultural battle even within tech than we're now even remembering.
Yeah.
Like I saw Based Baron posted yesterday screenshots of all the VCs that were VCs for Kamala as a website. The website's since been scrubbed.
Yep.
But there were probably 100 names up there from many of the biggest firms in the Valley, people that were backing it. So I would, since we don't talk about politics on this show or social issues, I would just vote that we just try to forget about that list and we just all move forward together. We should just have a website called VCs.
Yeah.
And just any VC can just, put your name on that site, or like tech.com. And you just if you support tech, technology, if you're a VC,
I just want to put my name in the hat that I'm a venture capitalist.
If you're a VC and you support technology, go to technology.com. You can put your name on the dotted line and you can support tech.
Yeah, who's that guy with the NFL hat? Is that meme where he's at the NFL game, he just supports the NFL? That's what you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Just VCs
pro
for
tech,
America.
Pro business.
Support both parties.
Pro America.
Pro America.
Yeah, I think the reason we're able to have a non-political show, purely business, is because we generally support everybody that is pro-technology, pro-business, pro-America.
Yeah, that was one of my hot takes. What do you agree? What do you believe that very few people will agree with you on? Is that every American president is amazing?
Yeah,
I love them all, and I would get beers with all of them, and I think they're all incredible. And I think that you don't rise to that station without having an incredible life story. And every time I've dug into someone, even someone who's been controversial, or I did a whole hour-long documentary about Trump and then an hour-long documentary about Biden, and they both have incredible stories. And it's very easy to get lost in what's going on this week with this particular policy, and is this policy good or bad? And there's certainly some politicians that benefited me or my worldview more, but I think we've never had a Stalin or a Hitler in America, and every American president has been unique and interesting, and someone that I would absolutely want to get dinner with if they were alive or available.
Yep, that's a great point.
Pro-America.
Pro-America. Where do we even want to start here? There's a bunch of big moments.
Huge.
Everything from OpenAI to Truth Social going public to an almost TikTok ban that didn't end up happening to software dying and being reborn to humanoid robots to OpenAI drama to
the OpenAI drama was mostly last year. This year was kind of a rebuilding
year,
really
but
pivot to product.
But the talent
focused.
Exodus this year was intense.
That was intense, but
they
also
were kind of two separate things.
The cadence of product releases is really, really strong.
The app
is really, really good.
That's why I put it at the top. Is despite all the drama and the various people, high-profile people, co-founders leaving, the product velocity was still insane.
Yep.
And they didn't. And it's still throughout the year was this tug of war in terms of, Anthropic versus OpenAI versus, what is Gemini doing? What's
Ilya doing?
Yeah, there was this sort of tug of war for attention and users throughout the year, but it felt like OpenAI seemed to stay mission oriented, even if their mission had changed year over year in some ways, right? Shifting to for profit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable shift from a research organization with a very much more academic style of employee to product led. And like some of the earliest problems were like, yeah, it was an amazing magical like God box that you could talk to that defeated the Turing test like out of nowhere, but it couldn't keep you logged in. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You had to keep logging in. And then for a while it was like it's down or it would air out. And now they've gotten to a point where it's extremely reliable.
Yep.
And yeah, it still goes down every once in a while. There's still rough edges and there's weird things where like different models have different capabilities, what can generate images, but clearly all of that product stuff is getting ironed out, and they're going to have ads in the free version all the way up to a $2,000 a month tier or $200 a month tier. Like it's going to be like really, really polished, differentiated product. So I'm excited. I mean, it's on my home row and nothing has been able to displace it for me.
Yeah. And we can't understate how impactful it's been on this show. We, on average, have been putting out 10 hours a week of content, something like that. Yeah. And some of it is actually more or less scripted, and then it's like heavily researched, and we, write some of it out beforehand. And so, ChatGPT has effectively replaced the need for a full-time writer, analyst type person.
Yeah. And then AI has worked its way into so many other things, just like transcripts are automated with AI, little captions that we put over videos, even just like some AI generated images and some of the short form stuff. Like it's just like weaseled its way into all these like nooks and crannies. It's very additive.
Yeah.
It's not like replacing anything that we're doing, but it's been hugely beneficial.
Yeah, another one on the list, obviously, Nvidia becoming the world's most valuable company. They were Apple overtook them again afterward, but can't be understated how memorable that will be to me, even 20, 30 years from now, like witnessing that.
Remember Jensen signing that woman's chest? That was like, he's a rock star now.
Yeah.
After 30 years of building that company, more.
Yeah, and being, I would say, a very benevolent, positive type of character within the tech world, right? He's doesn't have this ridiculous ego. He's generally very humble. The only critique I would have of him is he has gone on an interview to say, I wouldn't do this again, if I knew how hard it was going to be. Because we don't want to discourage any builders, but yeah, it really can't be, and it's so unclear right now. We're not in the business of making, predictions around market caps or anything like that, but looking back at the .com era, comparable companies, evaluations they achieved. It'll just be so interesting if this time it's different.
Well, they've over 100% of the profits in AI right now.
Yeah.
Because all the other companies are losing money, and they're the one that's printing money. It's also fascinating to just compare them to their rivals, Intel, which is a complete mess, and Pat Gelsinger was ousted, and they just haven't been able to take advantage of the CHIPS Act at all. Yep. And then AMD, there was like this bombshell report by Semi-Analysis, Dylan Patel this week, basically saying that like even though they're hitting the benchmarks on the actual like computing power, like price per flop, the software is so broken. There's so many bugs that you cannot train models on it. And George Hotz is like chiming in, and Lisa Su, the CEO, is kind of scrambling, but she's done this before where she's like hopped on the phone with people and be like, okay, yeah, we're going to fix it. And then nothing happens. And so it's been a really crazy, just kind of like A/B test to see that Nvidia just remains like so dominant, even when someone else can beat them on like the core metrics.
Yeah.
That CUDA, polish.
The other thing to highlight under here that was seemingly monumental was TSMC actually starting to produce chips here in America. I don't think that can be understated, just given how important they are in the value chain or supply chain. And I'm excited to see where that goes in 2025. But with the chaos of this year, it seemingly was not necessarily brushed under the rug, but it felt like it got like 5 hours of attention when maybe it was, considering how dependent our entire way of life is on chips, it seems pretty cool that we were able to make those here. Yeah,
huge. Did you use an Apple Vision Pro this year?
Yeah, that was going to be the next one. I'm going to sound like a Luddite for this, but I did not.
You didn't even try it? Not once?
I didn't even try it. One, I had no interest in going to an Apple store and just like putting on something that hundreds of other people are putting on in a day. Just a personal preference. The other thing, and the reason that I didn't actually buy it, is I try to keep devices away from my head. So I use, I use like wired headphones I have for years. I use my AirPods as like golf balls for practice in my backyard. They no longer work, obviously. But I didn't try it. I haven't been. I totally would. It's not that I wouldn't, but I just didn't happen to be in a situation. But it is fascinating that how quickly the swing happened from people going on X in the first couple of weeks being like, this is the next computing platform.
Yeah, it's amazing.
To I've never even FaceTimed a single friend that was like, oh, I'll call you from my Apple Vision Pro. And we have a bunch of friends that have these.
A lot of people used them for 2 weeks and then returned them. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
It was great for 2 weeks. I watched a movie on a plane, watched a movie at night, but there were just too many bugs, too heavy, too expensive.
You were seeing that. Like I remember I was at Soho Beach House, like somebody's just sitting there with it on.
Wow.
And it just looks, it looks silly, but it's also, just because something looks silly doesn't mean that it's bad. It was like, I generally think that the Apple Vision Pro is very, I think it's cool. I wish it was like catching on more. I have a friend who's a super talented iOS developer. I was like hoping that this would be a computing platform that he would be able to build on. I did try the Meta Ray-Bans, which I was pretty I was pretty impressed with. But again, I don't really want to wear. I don't need to. It's not quite significant enough to want to wear them around all day. But yeah, I think there had been some reporting that Apple was going to discontinue the Vision Pro entirely. I think that would be such a doing that. Like there's almost seemingly some value to Apple in terms of maintaining their market cap to just continuing it, because if they discontinue it, it's such a colossal defeat and sort of like verifiable proof that you are an iPhone company. And I think
they should keep it going. I think they should do another version with the same screen, because the screen really is fantastic. It's just
and it's Apple has the leverage to be able to say, let's spend $20 billion a year on this. They legitimately could do that.
If they can keep the same screen, get rid of the external screen, switch it to plastic instead of metal, so that it's half the weight, and half the price, they have a winning formula for sure. Just in terms of replacing a home movie theater. Because you can just put it on and watch a movie. But even then, the software was really bad. I would wear it in the dark, and my room is really dark, and it would get lost and put up an error saying can't track. And it's I don't care if you can track. I'm just trying to watch a movie right now. It's very, very frustrating. Not fully polished, and it felt like the people who were working on it weren't using it in a real way. They were using it in a demo at work,
lab setting,
and not actually daily driving it in the way that Steve Jobs daily drove the iPhone and realized hey, it needs to be a glass screen because I put it in my pocket with my keys. And that was a fundamental insight that hasn't happened with the Apple Vision Pro yet. It's been very much of course you'd like a giant box and take it out and put it on for 10 minutes and do a demo and then put it back. And it's no, that's not how people use these devices. But
people went from being oh, what case should I get to my Vision Pro to the next week being I'm going to return it now.
I'm going to return it. And super bullish for Meta, because they're clearly going to release something that's equivalent. They just need to figure out the media. You should be able to just buy any movie on any Meta headset. And I don't know that they have a partnership yet, but they need a iTunes store. Because that was the first thing I did was I went in and I bought Avatar, all the Christopher Nolan films, all the movies that I would want to see in the theater. I bought all those 3D movies and stuff. And it was amazing. All those were great, but it was just too heavy and too expensive and too janky. But if Meta comes out with something that's the same resolution at half the price and has that feature, just the movies are good. I also do think that there's a big opportunity for starting to create content in 3D right now. And then just waiting, and then eventually it'll catch up. I was thinking about doing that when it launched. If it was going to be big, I was going to do the history of VR, and I was going to do an interview series in spatial video in 3D. So you could watch it in the Apple Vision Pro, and it would be cool. Like you were sitting right here and you could look to your right and see me. You could look to your left and see like Palmer or Carmack or whoever I would get to interview about the history of VR. And it would just be like these really chill, unedited interviews. And it would just be like, oh, I'm sitting at a table with these guys having a conversation, learning a little bit, no edits, nothing. It's just very natural. Anytime you're cutting, it gets really jarring. Anytime you're flying around, you don't want to move the camera at all. You just want to put the camera there and then let people look where they want to look. And that's really cool. But there's just they don't have a YouTube yet for Apple Vision.
Yeah, it's problems. One thing that was interesting, they had that app that was native to the device that was, you could see dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the original like iPhone, iPod Touch apps when I was probably, I forget exactly how old I was, maybe like 10 years old, 11 years old, using these things where there was like the app where you could like play guitar or like drink, you could pour a beer or whatever. And it was just like these sort of, I don't remember anything outside of the dinosaur app that kind of broke through the noise.
Nothing.
Which is really proof that there's no organic developer activity, which is kind of a...
People are lazy when it comes to VR. Like you want to just like lay down. Like one of the best VR games I played on the Meta Quest was a shooter, but the whole conceit is that you're in a kayak and you're a sniper like sneaking through waters and like assassinating dudes on like oil rigs basically. And like, so you're seated the whole time and you're just using your VR paddles to go like this. And then you reach down, pull out your sniper rifle and then shoot. And it's really, really
That's
cool.
A cool concept.
It's awesome because you don't need to be like running around and it's not very
And it's
jarring.
Good training for everyday life.
Exactly. Yeah. It's great. And so, it's like the figuring out how to break people just want like video games. I feel like had a breakout moment during like Final Fantasy VII, where it was like 100-hour game. You could just sit there and it would be like lots of dialogue, very chill, sit on the couch. Metal Gear Solid, like these long games, and no one's figured out how to do that on VR because they're also preoccupied with like, well, you could run around and you could throw fireballs, but then it's like, okay, I'm just working out now. I'm like exhausted. Like I don't actually want to like climb a mountain to live like Mission Impossible 2. I want to watch it on my couch lazily. And so Palmer was actually talking about this one company that was building a VR headset that was meant to be used laying down. And so it had like a special pillow with like knobs on it. So you could like move your head very easily. So you can move your head, but then you'd lay down. It's like very kind of matrixy and like creepy. Like you could easily get like Wirehead and spend like 8 hours in it. But if you look at like,
imagine the brain rot.
Oh, it's so brain rotty. But at the same time, it's like, how do people play Madden on Xbox when it comes out, or Call of Duty when that one comes out? They play for 8 hours straight. And so you're not going to displace the PS5 until you can give someone an experience that they can go and chill with for 8 hours straight. And so you have to lean into that design like elements essentially.
And you're competing with the phone, which is good at capturing attention, right? Totally. And every single that's one of the big issues with VR is VR headsets aren't competing with each other. They're competing with every other screen, everyday life. So the competition is just intense, especially when they're this expensive.
What else you want
Polymarket is worth bringing up, like prediction markets finally breaking through. Seeing the picture of Shane working in 2020 or 2021, like in his bathroom on like a wicker basket. No one really cared, very low volumes, slogging through the next few years and getting to this year. And I just thought that was cool because we've talked about this on the show before, but it had been this sort of thesis that so many smart investors had for so long that prediction markets would eventually go mainstream. And it kind of took this election cycle. It took Polymarket's product getting to where it is. It took probably like sports betting, like blowing up and like becoming a lot more mainstream, to be honest, like kind of predated, I would say, like the Venn diagram of people that sports bet and people that like use prediction markets is like probably almost a circle, you know? But just a breakout year. And it was very, I would say, vindicating for believers in prediction markets based on how the election unfolded.
It's been tricky figuring out like what the next major Polymarket segment will be, because Chad Byers was in our replies talking about like, oh, we should do a poly market for when these guys double the next time, or like 64K.
Or hit 64K.
And Mike over at Poly Market was like, the bots have entered the chat because if there's money on the line, somebody will just
make a big bet and then
50K bots and just follow us, and it'll just destroy everything. And so it's very, very tricky to figure out how to price that effectively.
The whole insider trading element is interesting too, very because people were betting on Brian Johnson's erections, like nighttime erection length.
I saw that.
But then I saw one of his employees was like, I just made XYZ money from like insider trading on my boss's which is like, how do you really, like, these are financial markets.
Yep.
Maybe they do need some, element of regulation, or you just need to go into them and treat it more as an entertainment product and say like, this is not a, perfect security. Like, it's sort of,
you're almost trading on like, how much insider trading will there be? Like what type of insider trading will there be? Like, what are all the incentives that play?
Or you could say like, oh, it's all priced in, right? Like everything's priced in.
It's like if we did the 64K thing, would there be another army that's buying no shares and then actively reporting every bot that follows us to not hit that? That
exactly.
Could be the
levels.
Like bot war, essentially.
It's all priced in.
Yeah. Anyway, what's next?
Another one, SpaceX.
Fantastic.
The
landing, with the chopsticks.
Landing with the chopsticks.
So crazy.
Crazy moment. Very, very well timed for Elon's brand. If that had not worked, there was so much attention on him given the election cycle and everything. But it was just a very it should be a really uniting, moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, America, is home to a company that can achieve a feat that is so unprecedented and feels, like it's out of a science fiction movie. The other thing that I thought was funny here was you had, for years, the meme has been, oh, you're an investor in SpaceX, but you're an investor in this SPV that invested in this SPV that invested in like this fund that bought secondary at like 2x the pref value or whatever. But I would imagine that most of those people are actually making money still.
For sure.
Even if they overpaid or there was like a lot of fees bolted onto these different vehicles. But it's been a good year to be a SpaceX investor. It was, I guess, getting priced at $350 billion most recently. I'm interested to see. I'm sure there must be an IPO on the horizon. Don't have any inside info there, but I think the narrative's been they go and start up the Texas Stock Exchange and can potentially bring a lot of.
I don't know. Like, Elon ran the A/B test with Tesla, and it was so brutal being a public company with Tesla. Like, why take it public if he can keep it private as long as possible?
That's a good point.
He'll probably just keep it private as long as possible.
Especially, as long as there continues to be exceptional demand, then nobody can complain, oh, we need liquidity. It's like, well,
But really, like, every single founder should buy Starlink. Like, you should never be without solid internet. You should always travel with the Roam one. It's $50 a month. Because I was in Yosemite and the internet was terrible and it was a big hassle.
We recorded a video and John was like, okay, I'm uploading my
like 20 minutes of video. It took like 4 hours. It was miserable.
Yeah.
I actually don't know what the upload speeds are on SpaceX and Starlink. I think it's probably similar as download, but either way, like, anything was better than what we had. It was brutal.
Yeah. Another one, I thought the Figma Adobe breakup was pretty monumental.
Yeah. Lena Khan's last gambit, her Custer's stand. That was the most.
What is it? The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.
Yep, that's the quote.
She
could have been a product manager.
So I felt this
Amazon.
one. I felt this one personally because almost immediately after it got announced, I used Figma quite a bit, and the Figma product. They just rolled out these like absolutely horrific billing practices. Figma was always a very multiplayer product. You could make something, share it with somebody easily. They could edit it, comment, whatever. And they immediately rolled out these like billing approaches that were, one, extremely confusing and basically meant that if you wanted to share a file with anybody, you were just going to get started you would start to get billed
Yeah.
for
Them.
for them, and it's such a toxic way to do billing, because if I'm creating something and I want to share it with you and you're not like logged in right at that moment, it's just very, very annoying. But the $20 billion acquisition was off. They realized they probably needed to 2 or 3x, ARR like immediately if they wanted to maintain this sort of narrative that they were a 10 to $20 billion company. And so I get it from their side, but it was just extremely unfortunate. I think a lot of those billing changes would have probably been rolled out with Adobe Cloud, but it was just like such, Dylan, I think, I don't know him,
it's just the nature of becoming a big company. Like, I don't know that there's any way to avoid that.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, you got to you got to capture all the value.
Yep.
I don't know. I think it would have been jankier with Adobe, which is probably the worst thing.
Yep.
But I don't know.
But yeah, and again, there should be like an entire documentary on Miss Khan's era, because I don't know I don't think it's clear exactly why it happened.
I wrote out a script once. I never published it.
But the fact that two companies that like that can't just make love is tragic.
Let's go to
defense tech. This was the year of American dynamism. Credit, as much as AI was a dominant part of the narrative, American dynamism felt like it had an equal amount of attention from a meme standpoint. Coogan's Law. And credit to Andreessen for not necessarily being the first and biggest investors in that category, but they certainly coined it.
Yep.
And they get a lot of credit for the coinage.
Yep.
That's part of Coogan's Law.
Yep.
And so, I think...
you look at Thiel, and he co-founded Palantir. They did the SpaceX Series A, and then incubated Anduril. And it's like, they didn't come up with the phrase, though.
Mogged.
Genius.
Mogged by coinage.
Genius. Coinage.
Yeah, I think
are important.
Yeah, so the three major players, Anduril, Palantir, SpaceX, all started, long before American dynamism was a part of the vernacular.
Yep.
I thought this was funny. This has been talked about before. A lot of the valuations over the last year have been like pretty insane. I have portfolio companies that are getting multi-$100 million valuations with no revenue yet, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's a little frothy. And can you imagine how much defense tech companies would have loved 0% interest rates? Like
insane.
ZERP meets hard tech meets American dynamism would have been iconic. I hope we get that opportunity in the future.
Yep.
It'll be great. But yeah, this is a good example. Like, I think I remember Trey went on a podcast and was basically talking about how, the Founders Fund thesis is this sort of monopoly driven power law. Yep. There's one company that captures a majority of the returns, and that's presumably in defense.
Yep.
Hard tech defense, that presumably is Anduril.
Yep.
I look at a lot of the defense tech investing happening now, and I think I've talked about this before, but the government actually wants vendor diversity.
Yeah.
So there is some argument to say, hey, we actually need more Andurils. There should be maybe one or two more. Maybe there's a power law dynamic there where if Anduril is like $100 billion company, we have another $10 billion company. So I think we do need this. Anduril, I think, benefits dramatically from a lot of this because there's so many smart teams that are building cool tech that just won't figure out distribution and actually getting contracts.
Yeah.
Anduril will acquire them, and they've already proven that they can be a M&A-led product development org, right?
Yep.
Where they're like, we have the best distribution engine into the government. Now we're going to just bolt on other products to get in there.
And then there's also just like the adjacencies that Anduril doesn't, want to touch, like flock safety.
Yeah.
Great company doing fantastically well, kind of like Anduril for police forces. And
or Deterrence, the company that I help get off the ground. Deterrence is doing something that, doing high volume energetics manufacturing is not a sexy program of record type opportunity.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily
supply chain.
Yeah, it's deeper in the supply chain. It's a critical part of our defense overall. but ultimately not there are still categories that Anduril is not going to go after, immediately. Maybe they will long term, who knows? But plenty of opportunities and lots of great, companies like Aon, Allen Control Systems.
Yep.
Not to just talk my own book. But going on, meme of the year, we covered this a little bit in our awards. Trend of the year, meme of the year, they're basically the same thing. I think PG had this one in the bag. Guys still got it. And founder mode, coinage. He took something that was kind of obvious.
Everyone knew this idea.
Yeah.
But no one had ever put a phrase around it.
Yep.
What is the difference between a founder-led company and a non-founder-led company?
Yeah.
Founder mode. And it's a very vague post. And it faced a lot of criticism when it was dropped because it didn't define it very precisely.
And that's because it's different for every founder.
Exactly.
Right?
It's very vague, but it's still useful. It's still a useful term.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments, listeners will correct me if I'm wrong here, but Frank Slootman, I don't believe was the actual founder of Snowflake, was he? He joined later as a CEO, but very much amp it up. Like he is brings that founder mode approach. And I just thought this was a crazy moment when he announced he was retiring from Snowflake. They lost 20% of their market cap in a day. They'd been previously a $76 billion company. Yeah. And roughly a month after the announcement, they were a $50 billion company. So that's founder mode in effect. Yeah. It was cool to see people like Ryan Peterson. I think, was it earlier this year or maybe more than a year ago, but Ryan Peterson going back into Flexport, and now he's doing founder mode meets going direct.
Yep.
And that strategy is just like killer.
Yep.
Right? That's what Alex Karp is doing.
Yep.
That's what Palmer is doing, Trey are doing in many ways. So the winning formula is founder mode and going direct. And that's why if you try to make fun of a founder for posting a lot on X, just check yourself, because some of the best ever are doing that. Otherwise, like the big one, and we're going to cover this later in the show, was just the foundation model wars. Like this was this like constant game of tug of war, where it literally felt like every other week it was, everybody loves Anthropic. Next week everybody's back. And what that kind of exposed, and you have to go back and look, there was at one point this year that everybody said all the value is going to accrue to the foundation models, like ignore everything else, apps don't matter. And then people realized that people were just switching back and forth from models all the time. And then everybody started to think, okay, well, now the app layer is like what matters, and you should focus on the app layer. And then it went back to, don't launch an app, because OpenAI is just going to launch that as like part of ChatGPT and the next, keynote that they search. Do. And so, search is a good example, right? And all of this just got so spicy with the Perplexity CEO just like constantly shit posting against Sam. Yep. OpenAI, and Elon feuding the whole time in this like very public legal battle, and that's still ongoing. But we'll probably cover like the O3 Pro launch later in the show. Acquisition of the year for me had to be Bridge. Oh yeah. So I think that was we talked about this, but a non-token $1 billion outcome in crypto. Yep. You had Coinbase IPO, obviously significant, but to show that there was a second, sort of regulated crypto business that could be, acquired by, a tier one company, a non-crypto company, Stripe. A tier one company, and Bridge showing that, Bridge being, it doesn't even feel like they were that early to stable coins, but they were on time and very right. Right. And they built the right product, a developer tooling that Stripe clearly saw a lot of value in. So anyways, the last thing I would say is we kind of forgot about this, but in the Q1 of this year, TikTok was getting banned. Yeah. And
there is a law that's passed that should ban TikTok. Yeah. I'd say it's happening unless Trump overrides it.
And I thought this Trey post from February 21 was great. He said, concerned about losing our AI edge to China. ban TikTok, concerned about AI safety, ban TikTok, concerned about child mental health, ban TikTok, concerned about trade imbalance with China, ban TikTok. It's really not complicated. So it was very unfortunate that wave kind of died down. I had bought bantalk.com at the time, which
I don't know what you were going to do with that, but it's funny.
Well, the idea at one point was either to make like sort of a like actually just build like an organization to more and there had already been like internal stuff in Washington pushing this stuff forward, but the funnier idea to use with that domain, which I did sell it, somebody ended up paying, buying it for something close to what I got it for. But if you did like a vampire attack on TikTok, which was like sign in with your TikTok account, we'll pull all of your followers and your following, and then we'll like rebuild the app.
Sure,
somebody could probably pull that off.
Yeah,
maybe Nikita, something like that. And it's just interesting that the after that movement died down, Truth Social went public and soared, which maybe that was foreshadowing.
It certainly was foreshadowing the election. It's crazy how much money flowed into that company just supporting Trump. It's wild. The greatest wealth transfer.
I think it's time to probably get into some DMs in the timeline, but yeah, overall felt like I think this is a year that we're going to remember very long from now.
Huge comeback year.
Comeback year.
Crypto's back. Defense is ripping. AI is, completely new paradigm.
And if you were a GP at a major venture fund, you joined the government.
That's true.
Which we'll be covering over the next year.
Let's start with Signal.
Should we jump into some DMs?
Sure. Do you have them over there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so first, before we get into that, we got some reply guys to cover.
Let's do it.
And this is the first ever double reply guy of the week award, and it's going to none other than Chris Amadon and Will. God, I'm going to butcher his name. Stromber.
Is there an R in there?
Will Stromber and Chris Amadon.
Yep.
And these two brothers, not only exemplify brother behavior, but have managed to find the perfect balance between being highly active in the comments section and highly active building their business. They're building a maritime defense startup. Chris is the founder, and Will recently joined to run ops. And these guys are absolute dogs. I will say that. Very patient, very focused. I can tell they don't have post notifications on, so it's not always immediate. But they're getting into the comment sections that matter. They're engaging with other reply guys, other brothers. They are exemplifying the spirit of what it means to be a reply guy, and they outwork the competition and patience. We've seen potential reply guy of the weeks come in, get super active for 5 days, not win, and taper off.
Yep.
And Chris and Will have just been at it, honestly, for like months now.
It's great.
Love
to see it.
So that's exactly what it takes to build a great company. And they have just proven time and time again that they are very deserving of this award. So, gentlemen, congratulations. Probably not the first time you guys win this award. I could see either of you winning Brother of the Week at some point, and potentially Brother of the Year. Who knows? We'll be doing the show for a long time. And don't stop. We've talked about this before. You can win this award twice.
It's great. What else do we have?
Okay, funny meme. This wasn't in the DMs, but Andrea posted this and said, "Stimmies over demons." She said that psychedelic psychosis is out and cocaine-induced opulence is in. And we don't support hard drugs, but we do support stimulants, and we do endorse and live a loud, opulent lifestyle.
Love loud opulence.
And so loud opulence, I would say, is going to be the trend of next year.
I think so.
So if going direct or founder mode was 2024, loud opulence is the year of 2025. America's back. And thank you, Andrea. future brother of the week. I have no doubt. And thank you for memeing us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Let's go to Sar. He says, started listening to Tech Bros Pod. In a sea of podcast, it has really nailed the vibes. A great blend of Twitch/Discord style talk show, very online discourse, and podcast format. Thanks for giving us the shout out. We really appreciate this.
I think Sar had to be one of the first 100 accounts I ever followed on X.
Yeah,
he's very,
for sure.
He's not as active as he was maybe
posts,
6 years ago, but when he posts, it breaks through. Thank you, Sar.
Yeah, and I like that. Talk show is definitely what we go for. I don't know what he means by Discord style talk show. I haven't actually seen anything that's like Discord driven. I've seen a lot of Twitch content, and a lot of Twitch streamers will pull up tweets, and there's a couple. Like Ludwig is a YouTuber who is also a Twitch streamer or live streamer. And a lot of times what he'll do is he'll make a 10-minute video about something and he'll just have 10 tabs or 20 tabs open and just flip through them. And it's a great format because he just, it drives like, okay, he's on to the next thing. He's on to the next thing. And he can just do a one take, or he does like a couple takes. And it turns out to be a really polished product that feels like a scripted YouTube video, but it's really natural.
Maybe that's really how we're going to do. We're going to have to do a remote episode this week.
Yep.
So maybe that's how we do it. You
just
open,
tabs.
You should just
shared
open,
screen,
like,
and then just go through and just be like, this is the story we want to tell. I really think that doing some more organization around our content would be great, and being like, okay, we're breaking down the ChatGPT like OpenAI launch, and here are 20 tweets that we're going to go through one at a time and take you through like a narrative on these, as opposed to kind of what we're doing right now, which is a little more random. But we're always learning, we're always getting better. So thank you for the
it's funny. We're firm believers against building in public. Do not show your revenue online. Let people clock it by the car you drive and the watch you wear.
Yes.
But content you're kind of forced to build in public because you're just sort of iterating live and everything is very public. So,
okay. Megan Nivold says, what wine pairing if you're in a warmer climate outside of Palo Alto? Screaming Eagle seems a bit heavy for 75 in Miami. Thanks. What would you recommend? I mean, you can't go wrong with a refreshing glass of Dom Perignon. Cheers to that, Megan. Enjoy some Dom. You can never go wrong.
No, it's great. Almost every time I see brother Megan's post, she's just somewhere like Aspen, Miami, just really like indulging the loud opulence lifestyle. So I think this is one of those questions where she already knows the answer and she's just kind of testing us.
Sure.
So Megan, why don't you DM us, tell us
what you settled on.
What you settled on, because we know you already know the right answer.
Let's go to Based Baron. He's been on the show before. We say, if my second mistress is going to be so mad at me if I don't get at Tech Bros Pod reply guy of the week. Oh, that's a good point. Well, you missed it this week, but maybe next week. Keep up the replies, Based Baron. We love you.
Reply guy of the week is it's a duration meets quality.
Yep.
And we value persistence quite a bit. So
for sure.
There's other people, Brody's been very consistent, right? Trip has been phenomenal, and so it doesn't go unnoticed. But it does take some sort of concerted long-term effort.
Turner Novak,
right?
It's great.
Yeah.
Let's go to Julia Black. She says, fascinating logic from Tech Bros Pod. I described the guys of El Segundo in a way they would gladly describe themselves, and that made it a hit piece. Humbled that John Coogan and Jordy Hayes would devote so much time to discussing such an untimely, uninteresting story.
Well,
got us dead to rights. We both enjoyed it and criticized it. Hypocrites.
Yeah. She got us. I spoke with Julia after this. She's great. We squashed the beef.
She was one of the nominees for. She was Journalist of the Year.
Technology Brothers Journalist of the Year award nominee.
Yeah, she's close.
Not by accident. So.
Yeah.
She's gonna be shifting to covering Doge.
Okay.
Starting, basically now through next year. And so I'm actually very excited to see some of the articles that she starts writing. So if you're exposed to Doge and you have stuff that's sort of able to be shared, it's not going to be damaging to the movement, go talk to Julia.
Yeah. Let's go to My Tech CEO, Jason. He says, LA-based founder I backed has totally lost it. And he replies, every angel's worst nightmare. Tech Bros Pod would appreciate advice on this topic. Was this the Jeff Wu video?
I don't think that was a Jeff Wu video, but I think it was a founder that he was, founder in his portfolio, moved to LA, set up shop, started taking acting classes, and that is just a huge red flag. You'd almost rather a founder, it's basically as bad as a founder saying that they're going to go to Peru and have a psychedelic experience. Rough. So acting classes, terrible sign.
Very rough.
Ayahuasca, terrible sign. I don't know. You might want to just write that one off, Jason.
Good luck. Let's go to Signal. He says, the eternal technological pursuit has always been about the commoditization of every single thing that includes the human body, mind, and soul.
I mean, Signal, after the 03 launch, just went on a generational posting run.
Oh, yeah?
This is why he was one of the breakout posters of the year.
Yep.
The guy went on an absolute tear. So this was in response to that.
Yep.
I think that, it was just like very, well put. I think that commoditization of the human mind. I don't know if we have the human soul yet, but it feels like, talking with ChatGPT doesn't feel far off from talking to a smart friend, right? It's not perfect. It's not right on everything. Can make mistakes, but so do all of us.
Yeah. Pretty wild. Here, let's go to Antonio Garcia Martinez. He says, I find the AGI alarmism amusing. We've been a post-scarcity society for decades. 95% of the work we do is invented, i.e. needless add-ons to food and shelter. We will always invent new forms of work, making new products and services to occupy ourselves and compete for status. It's a good take. I mean, AI solved chess 2 decades ago, and chess.com is a massive business, and also chess masters, like people like watching human chess players, even though they are not the best compared to AI. And I do think that there's something that will be, around for a very long time around what can a human do in the ring or in this podcast or in this debate format, even if an AI could win 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, another take here that was interesting. Sean Frank was posting that it's like 60 million people still subscribe to cable. So even though we have streaming,
says AI is going to replace everyone. Brother, 60 million people pay for cable. We got time. Yeah, it's going to take a long time to roll all this stuff out. It takes time to implement AI into your organization. There's a lot of risks, a lot of legal risks. Like, where does it sit?
I think the one thing that's obvious, if you look at the cell phone, to compare it to something like cell phone adoption, which was dramatic, everybody suddenly having a smart, computer and a personal computer in their pocket. It took maybe 15 years to get to the point where everybody that was participating in modern society had this personal computer in their pocket. I don't think it's going to take that long at all now that everybody has that personal computer, which is a distribution device for these AI products. I basically think that, I don't even know, people are kind of already interacting with these generative AI products, whether they know it or not. And so I think the adoption is already basically happened. And but the impact is going to take decades.
Let's go to Mark Andreessen. He says, overheard in Silicon Valley, my biggest lesson from the last year is just, it's all going to happen. All my childhood dreams of space colonies and brain interfaces and AI and robots, everything is just going to happen. And Yaxine says, not only is it going to happen, you'll get to play with it in your basement. 3D printers, soldering, the future rocks. I like this. Very optimistic.
Yeah, so I think we're able to say that now, that it's quote unquote just going to happen. Like, I think it's a great quote, but we're able to say that because many, many years ago, really smart, hardworking, visionary people decided to make it happen. Like, Elon Musk's keynote, the future should look like the future. That was the culmination of 2 decades of work to say what, autonomous cars, humanoid robots, all these things. So our dreams are going to happen, but it's because a small number of people decided to make them happen. And so if you have a dream, don't just expect it to happen.
It's going to take 20 years.
It's going to take 20 years and be persistent.
But the best day to start is today. Let's go to Signal again. He says, it feels like instead of all of us stepping into the future together, a few of us are watching our world change on a daily basis, while the remaining masses will one day have a startling realization that the world is radically different. This is true. I mean, there's a lot of people who are like, I talk to people who are outside of tech and they straight up say, oh yeah, that AI stuff, I gotta look into that. It's like, wow. It's been like
it's funny because
years since ChatGPT dropped, and you're like, that's on my to-do list, is like figure out if I should use that instead of Google.
And they don't realize that for almost everything that you do in life, you could be benefiting from the co-pilot that is, ChatGPT or whatever your preferred model is.
Yep.
It's my wife will be like, oh, I have these 4 ingredients.
Yep.
What should I make?
Yep.
It's like instantly like cool recipe that just like takes no real effort to find. It just comes out of, it's just purely magic. So magic is here. It's just not evenly distributed.
This is a great take by Pavel. He says, non-technical folks saying software engineers are cooked. It's you guys who are cooked. You're going to have X software engineers competing with everything you're doing now, and they're going to be AI turbocharged, 7,000 likes. And then he follows it up and says, engineers were simply doing coding because it was the highest leverage use of mental power. When that shifts, it's not going to all of a sudden shift the hierarchy. Couldn't agree more.
I got to hang out with Pavel for a bit at Holiday Party. And his takes are as good in person as they are online. But I would say that he's not necessarily speaking about the low agency software engineer at a big tech company. He's speaking about the high agency, individual contributor engineer who's able to, imagine something and then create it with code.
Yeah.
And it does feel like right now, somebody, this guy, is it Nat Eliason? You know that guy?
Yeah, I know.
So he was talking and he was like, he made some post about think about how incredible the tools are that are publicly available for $30 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to imagine that there's thousands of tools out there that have been created by software engineers that are an order of magnitude more impactful and powerful than what's publicly available, and nobody knows about them yet. So if you're getting like a robocall and it sounds like a regular salesperson, and then it's actually, like some model, that person, the highest and best use of that tool might not be to sell it as a SaaS product. It might just be to use it for their business.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. For a long time, coding was just a proxy for like intelligence. And there's a big difference between somebody who doesn't code because they operate at a higher level abstraction, they hire software engineers, and someone who's just like, oh, I could never even fathom figuring out how to code. That's a very, very different type of person. That's a very different level. So Vittorio says, serious question. What should a CS student or any knowledge worker for that matter do at this point? Even if the model is $2,000 a month, it's still cheaper than a graduate employee. What's the plan now? And so this is everyone freaking out about O3 and AI displacing software engineering. And we just discussed it. It's like, operate at a higher level of abstraction. Everyone kind of moves up the stack. This has been the story of programming for decades, going from machine code and writing like binary to compilers to, higher level abstraction languages to, autofill and autocomplete on things to now being able to just talk to Devin and figure out what you want to do.
Well, so all of the AI coding startups are still hiring engineers.
Yeah.
And so there's clearly plenty of value in what you do. The key is if I was 21, 22, graduating with a computer science degree, I would be figuring out how do I use AI better than any of my peers, and how do I do 20 times the work that a typical college grad would do. Because you now have no excuse not to write better code, more code, faster, do it all faster. And so if you can come in, if you can do the job today using these AI tools that a previous new grad engineer would have been able, if you can do the job of 20 new grad engineers for you plus $2,000 a month, then you're going to be in a great spot.
Let's go to Atlas Creatine Cycle. He says, really worried about the amount of ex-software engineers turned DJs we're going to get out of this. Tasteless beep boop music, too cheap to meter. So funny.
Atlas has been on a tear as well. He said he's been bored staying, with family for the holidays, and he's just posting through it.
Love it.
Yeah, we love to see it. There was already a big pipeline of people that were post-economic becoming DJs, like Justin Kahn. Plenty of other examples. And so, I think we're going to see a lot of software engineers turn DJs, but maybe some beautiful things will come of it.
Maybe it's more parties, more human interaction, less time online, more excuse to go and be together. But yeah, I'd stick to the Metropolitan Opera and the LA Philharmonic instead.
Good call.
Learn to
I think Atlas
play
would
the
as well.
piano
and
the violin. Learn a concerto. Lulu says, building things will become easier and easier. Getting people to care will become harder and harder. And that makes sense. That was the entire thesis for OpenAI, was that in a very crowded internet, a very noisy internet, they broke through and created a new consumer internet brand.
Yep.
And to this day, you can stop someone on the street and say, where do you go to solve AI problems? And they'll just tell you chatgpt.com. Even though it's a ridiculous name with like all these acronyms, it's not like the sexy name. People still, identify it, and it became, just baked into the zeitgeist.
And it's interesting. There's like this entirely new behavior where I'm not necessarily wanting to search the internet for something, but I'm wanting to understand something, which people historically would use Google to say, I want to understand intermittent fasting. And now you can just go, I oftentimes know I'm going to get a better answer by going to chatgpt.com. So I'll just go there, type what I'm looking for into the search bar. And so just the value of a new consumer behavior that I don't think people use, like I'm going to GPT it. But they you kind of hear that.
I mean, it's just a very different, pathway of exploring things and asking follow-up questions and creating tables and ontologies, and it's just so nice to be able to say, hey, break down this new concept in different levels of abstraction, create a taxonomy for me, what is the topology of this idea, what are the super categories, the subcategories, and you could get some of that on Wikipedia sometimes, but you can just do that for anything. It's been really, really fun to learn about all the new things. And I find myself just dropping weird arcane knowledge and getting up to speed way faster on things. There was somebody who was the first person months ago to ever say the word Vacheron Constantin to me. And within 3 months, I'm clocking oh, that's a Cartier Santos. Because I've literally gone from 0 to 60 on that and just become a watch guy through YouTube and also through ChatGPT, but understanding okay, break down all the watch brands, break down all the expensive ones, all the oldest ones, all of that. It's just so much faster to learn and become an expert in some random category, which is crack for me.
And you can be what do AP enthusiasts think about Vacheron?
Exactly.
And then you can get that summarized really quickly in a way that
and it's way harder on Google.
Signal. Hey, John.
Promoted
post.
I
love ads. We got a promoted post from our friend Austin Reef, CEO of Morning Brew. He says, my favorite growth hack, find business influencers and turn them into your biggest customers and advocates. It's awesome to see Mr. Sharma genuinely loving the talent we source for him at Ocean's Talent. So Austin's one of the owners of Ocean's Talent. They help you find great offshore employees. And he just screenshots HubSpot here, which was clearly a NPS style survey. And Nick says, XYZ employee is a beast. He's taken on so much and has kept everything running so smooth. I'm never not going to not work with him in my life. He not only goes above and beyond what he's asked to do, but comes up with new ways to do those things better many times. Also just coming to me with these ideas in the first place before being asked. So if you need to hire remote employees, check out Ocean's Talent. Shoot Austin a DM. He's a pretty responsive guy. And cool example of the product in action.
It's great. Let's go to O3. Mike Knoop, who runs ARC Prize, says O3 is really special and everyone will need to update their intuition about what AI can/cannot do. While these are still early days, the system shows a genuine increase in intelligence, canaried by ARC AGI. Semi-private scores, and there's a fantastic chart here by Riley Goodside that shows the progress of the GPT models on on ARC score, which are these like color-based block puzzles that any human can do, no problem, but AI has struggled with for a long time. Yep. O3 is a reasoning model. The high version costs $2,000 per solve. So it really thinks, and it really puts tons and tons of cycles. And it's also been fine-tuned on these. And so some people were saying, oh, well, if it's fine-tuned, it's not that good. But of course,
Rune's post was the thing, like, they trained on the training
set. Yeah. it is ridiculous. But at the same time, like, there is a difference between a model being able to one-shot an eval and actually needing the training set. Like a human does not even need a training set to do ARC. You don't even need to study for it. And so there is something there, although Rune is like basically correct. Yeah. And that this is remarkable. And Dylan says, if you look at this graph and don't feel any existential concern for humanity, you might need to revisit your priors. And
So I was texting, I think it was Friday night, with brother Madfess, Jared Madfess, who coined too big to fail, which is his thesis that highly technical entrepreneurs that are in the 1,000-pound club in weightlifting just are too big to fail. So Jared says, basically tech used to be this great equalizing force, but now this is a thing. And so he's showing what we just discussed. He says paying more doesn't lead to quote unquote more tokens. It now leads to quote unquote higher quality tokens, with costs being exponential but value generated per task also potentially being the same. So if you're a billionaire with a device running 10,000 times the inference costs, now gives you a god compared to the average guy.
Yep. And
so right now, $1,000 per task gets you basic human capabilities for most things and world-class capabilities for a lot more. Within 3 years, that will be sub 10 cents per task. And what does the $1,000 per task model look like then? He says, inference time compute means money, energy, and labor all converge on each other. So, he says, today feels monumental to me. Go long feudalism or fascism. AI smells the end of democracy. So anyways, bold take from brother Madfez. But I think that there's a lot there.
Interesting. Let's go to Aaron Levy. He says, here's a way to think about the market size of AI. U.S. labor costs are $11 trillion. If a company pays 2% of headcount expense to get a 10 to 50% productivity gain with AI, that's $200 billion. The U.S. enterprise software market today is around 150 to $2 billion. So AI doubles that just in the base case. Wow.
Yeah. This is why it's a good time to be bullish. The end of software was, a meme in many ways. Yeah. A lot of the best AI products are software meets Gen AI. Yeah. So don't be afraid to go build.
And here's a related post from Adam D'Angelo, founder of Quora, co-founder of Facebook, I believe. Wild that the O3 results are public and yet the market still isn't pricing in AGI. And then Elon says, the markets claim to look ahead, but mostly look behind. AI will ultimately render money meaningless. Bold. By the way, I look forward to your deposition on quote unquote open AI. Wow.
Elon. That's a heavy reply from the biggest,
I just want
most popular
to stop
reply
fighting.
guy.
I want them to be friends.
Let's focus.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the task.
But yeah, I mean, it's real. O3 I think is still underpriced. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Very, very big deal. Let's go to Aaron Slodov. He says, why do you, an adult technologist, believe that a nice programming benchmark score means AGI? Fascinating stuff. He's always been very anti the idea that AGI is here because he works in the physical world, and the AI has not been super useful to him in many ways, and there's still a lot of tasks that he can't apply AI to.
But I feel like this video a couple videos started going viral that these $4,000 robots, like factory grade robots have started to seemingly get some amount of traction. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the next year looks like for physical intelligence, which is Lockheed Groom's company, who's building foundation models for the physical world, presumably robots. So
And also just like Devon-esque, technology for CAM programming and like CAD in design, and just like what happens if you have a factory that has some software and you're able to just speed up the development cycle time of every piece of software that you develop, or every stream of tokens that you write. Hopefully they move a lot faster. Hopefully the delivery times are faster, which would be great.
John, I got to jump in here with an exciting promoted post from none other than Ben Hylack. He has two exciting pieces of news that I want to bring here. One is that his company, Dawn Analytics, is hiring again for a back-end engineer. And this was posted, I guess this was posted before O3 launched. So maybe double check to make sure they're still hiring that person. But he also says they will pay $5,000 to anyone who refers someone that we hire. So brothers, if you're hearing this, go refer a back-end engineer to go work at Dawn. Very cool company. And Ben is actually the designer that is responsible for the Jaguar rebrand. So
that's true.
You get to work with an iconic designer, one of the best to ever do it, led the Jaguar rebrand, was covered in the mainstream media for it. And the opportunity to work with somebody that can do that level of that has that level of taste would just be an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Jeff Bezos' wedding. It was reported that he was spending $600 million on his wedding. And he was buying out a sushi restaurant. And I was talking to somebody about this, and they were like, $600 million of sushi? Like, that's all I have sushi. And Bezos debunked it. He said, furthermore, this whole thing is completely false. None of this is happening. The old adage, don't believe everything you read, is even more true today than it ever has been. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think everybody saw the headline and started running the napkin math and was like,
what would you spend
even if you were having 600 guests,
$1 million
$1 million a head,
it's like impossible.
Pretty difficult to do. I mean, if anybody could figure it out, we could.
Yeah.
But it'd be like
a car,
one of
a
one,
watch,
Patek,
a horse,
one of one thoroughbred, Kentucky Derby winning racehorse. Like, it would really be the gift basket at the end.
Exactly.
That ran it up. But,
Yeah, very hard to consume $600 million of food in a weekend. They just don't make it.
You can stay at Amman for $50,000 a week.
Yeah.
Per room.
Yeah.
So you have two guests in a room, and that's
crazy.
Like basically all inclusive. So,
impossible.
The math's not mathing, and it's funny. Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post, it wouldn't have even have been effective for him to publish an article from the Washington Post saying, "Hey, by the way, my wedding didn't cost this much." He had to go.
He had to go direct. Yeah. Let's go to Oliver.
Classic Lulu win.
Yeah, let's go to Oliver. He says, U.S. Department of M&A for Greenland, Panama Canal, and other strategic acquisitions. I love it. I'm so bullish on the Greenland and Panama Canal and moon stuff. I really hope at least we get one of them. It'd be so good.
I know that's the best part of this is if this just only leads to one more American source of natural resources, economic dominance.
I would love it.
Vacation destination. It would be let's turn Greenland into the world's largest Disneyland.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, Ken Howery is now the ambassador to Denmark, and I think he reads Pirate Wires. Maybe he'll work on Greenland.
By the way, brother Pat Blumenthal made a post that went quite viral, and talking about how we were appointed as ambassadors to Monaco, and all my least offline friends took it at completely. I posted the screenshot on Instagram, took it totally at face value, sending me congrats. Like, this is amazing. Like, I always believed in you.
I got a bunch of those. So funny.
So anyways, Pat,
thank you for creating the fake news cycle.
Amazing fake news cycle. I got a bunch of messages to go through telling people that I won't be moving to Monaco anytime
unfortunately.
soon.
Maybe in the next cycle.
Once JD's in, that would be a great slot for us. We could move the studio, the families out to Monaco.
I think we could do it.
I have a good story. I don't know if I ever told you this. My parents took us on like a 30-day road trip through Europe when I was 12. And maybe I was 10, somewhere in that range. And we drove through Monaco. We couldn't afford to spend the night there. It was too expensive, but we spent like 3 hours driving through it. And my mom said that at one point I stood in the harbor and was like, And I just said out loud, "These are my people."
These are my people.
And she's like, "What are you fucking talking about? Our entire family's income wouldn't run one of these ships for an hour."
That's hilarious.
Like, annual income. So anyways, we have Monaco in our future, definitely this summer.
Let's do it.
And hopefully the ambassadorship at some point.
Let's do one more promoted post and we'll close with Darkesh.
This was a toss-up, but I'm going to go for a post from Hermes. I don't know who it was, but one of our listeners sent us a saddle from Hermes. Hermes, started making, very high-end leather saddles, and somebody sent this to us. If you sent it, thank you. They said, for the tech journalists listening to the show. So if you're a tech journalist, we know you love horses. If you're shopping for a tech journalist, today is Christmas Eve. You literally have 12 hours to buy a gift.
Yeah.
If you don't have something, go to your local Hermes store, get a saddle, pretty much, gets it.
This was like a shot across the bow because we had publicly mentioned a YSL saddle.
Yep.
And Hermes has a much richer history in saddle making.
Yeah.
And so
I saw maybe this was Sarah Hess.
I think so. And so this is a bit of mea culpa for us.
Yeah.
I think we got it wrong. I think Hermes is the obvious choice here.
Yep.
And YSL is great, but if you're trying to convince a mainstream media journalist to stop writing a hit piece on you, you really should spare no expense. You're going to expense it anyway. So
go straight to the top.
Just go straight to the top with the Hermes saddle. Let's close with Dwarkesh Patel. He says, we're way more patient in training human employees than AI employees. We will spend weeks onboarding a human employee and giving slow, detailed feedback, but we won't spend just a couple of hours playing around with the prompt that might enable the LLM to do the exact same job, but more reliably and quickly than any human. I wonder if this partly explains why AI's economic impact has been relatively minor so far. So Dwarkesh was spending hours tinkering with Gemini 2, Google's LLM, to effectively take his rough transcripts and turn them into really highly polished transcripts. And he finally needed to figure out that he needed to give it a sample of the input and the output and really write out. And so his prompt is big. It's really, really big, but he nailed it and it just works super, super well. So anyone with a podcast out there, I highly recommend adopting Dwarkesh's script.
It's such a perfect example though, right?
Yep.
Because when you hire a new employee, you're committing to
40
hours
of
mentorship,
training,
right? Mentorship,
weeks,
weekly meetings. Yeah. Sometimes, I've had times where it's like, hey, let's meet every single day for your first 2 weeks just to fully ramp you.
And then constantly learning by osmosis, and the LLM just doesn't get that.
And I would say most people have spent less than an hour prompt engineering.
Yep,
or like
totally.
really trying to dial any of this stuff in. So this Christmas Eve, I don't know if this will go live today, might go live tomorrow, might go live the next day, but spend some time prompt engineering. Give the gift of dialing in your models to yourself.
Highly recommend it.
And I think that's a great place to end.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.